Formula One is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, the fastest cars, the bravest drivers, the smartest engineers, but in 2008, Renault proved you could win a race by crashing on purpose. Singapore Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso stuck in midfield with no hope of a win. Then, conveniently, his teammate Nelson Piquet Jr smashes into the wall at exactly the right spot to trigger a safety car. Suddenly, Alonso's strategy works perfectly. He cruises to victory. Genius, right? Well, if you ignore the whole deliberately risking lives by turning an F1 car into a guided missile part. The scandal broke a year later. Piquet spilled the beans after being dropped by the team. The FIA investigation uncovered that Renault's top brass had ordered the crash. Team principal Flavio Briatore, yes, the guy who looks like he owns 6 nightclubs and a private yacht called Evasion, was banned for life. Engineer Pat Symonds got a 5-year ban. The darkest bit, for an entire year, Alonso's miracle win was celebrated, while the truth sat hidden in plain sight. Fans, rivals, even marshals risked their lives, all because a team decided cheating was easier than racing. Crashgate wasn't just a scandal, it was proof that behind the glamour, F1 can get downright sinister. If Crashgate was reckless, Spygate was pure espionage. Think James Bond, but with less martinis and more photocopiers. In 2007, McLaren got caught with a 780-page Ferrari technical dossier. Yes, 780 pages. This wasn't a shopping list, it was basically Ferrari's DNA. Suspension settings, aero tricks, even fuel systems. The whole package. The documents were found in the possession of McLaren's chief designer, Mike Coughlin, after his wife tried to copy them at a local print shop. Yes, the entire scandal started because Kinko's has better ethics than a top F1 team. The fallout was nuclear. McLaren were fined $100 million, the biggest penalty in sporting history. And even worse, they were stripped of all their Constructors' Championship points. Drivers Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso kept theirs, which only made the season more awkward. Imagine fighting for the title while your team is officially erased from the standings. And here's the kicker. Alonso himself reportedly blackmailed the team, threatening to expose the documents unless McLaren favored him over Hamilton. So the cheating was tangled up with one of the most toxic teammate rivalries in F1 history. Spygate showed the world that Formula One isn't just about racing, it's about paranoia, politics, and keeping your designs away from nosy interns with USB sticks. Some stories in F1 aren't funny, they're just haunting. Imola, 1994 was supposed to be another jewel in the crown of Formula One. Instead, it became a nightmare that scarred the sport forever. On Saturday, Roland Ratzenberger lost his life after crashing at 300 km/h. The paddock was shaken, but the race went ahead anyway. Then on Sunday, Ayrton Senna, already a legend, 3-time world champion, hero to millions, crashed at Tamburello on lap 7. His car went straight on, into a concrete wall. The impact killed him. Millions watched live as one of the greatest drivers in history died on track. The FIA scrambled. New safety measures were promised. Circuits were redesigned. Cars slowed down. But the dark truth, F1 had ignored the warning signs for years. Tamburello was already notorious. The cars were dangerously fast, and drivers had raised safety concerns that went unanswered. Senna's death forced change, but at a terrible cost. It exposed the arrogance of a sport that believed it was untouchable, until reality hit at 200 miles per hour. To this day, Imola 1994 is the darkest weekend in Formula One history. Sometimes the dark side of F1 isn't tragedy, it's farce. Welcome to Indianapolis 2005. Out of 20 cars, only 6 started the race. Why? Because Michelin, one of the 2 tire suppliers, realized their rubber might explode on the high-speed banked corner of the Indy circuit. Their solution? Maybe don't race? The FIA's solution? We're racing anyway. So every Michelin-shod team, 14 cars, pulled into the pits after the formation lap. The crowd booed, threw bottles, and demanded refunds. Fans had paid hundreds of dollars to watch Ferrari fight Jordan and Minardi in a glorified exhibition. Michael Schumacher won, but even he looked embarrassed on the podium, and the scandal destroyed F1's reputation in America for years. Broadcasters mocked it, fans swore off the sport, and all because the FIA and Michelin couldn't agree on a compromise, like adding a chicane to slow the cars down. It was supposed to be the biggest market F1 had ever cracked. Instead, it became a symbol of incompetence and stubbornness. The day Formula One turned into clown college. Formula One has always loved to talk about the pinnacle of technology, but for decades, it was also the pinnacle of cigarette advertising. Marlboro, Camel, Lucky Strike, brands that killed millions, found their biggest stage on F1 cars. Even after tobacco ads were banned in most countries, F1 teams pulled stunts to keep the cash flowing. Ferrari replaced Marlboro logos with a weird barcode design, subtle enough to dodge the rules, obvious enough to make you crave a smoke. Other teams used subliminal branding, like colors, shapes, and fake lifestyle logos that just happened to look exactly like cigarette packs. It was so brazen brazen that governments accused Ferrari of breaking the law, but the team shrugged, the money kept rolling, and fans kept watching. The dark irony? While drivers promoted cigarettes, they were also athletes in peak physical condition, hooked up to heart monitors, and on strict diets. The sport of speed selling the slowest death imaginable. Formula One didn't just take tobacco money, it built its empire on it. No dark side list is complete without Bernie Ecclestone. The man who turned F1 into a billion-dollar business also turned it into a playground for the powerful. Ecclestone controlled TV rights, sponsorship deals, race calendars, you name it, and he used that power to cozy up to dictators. Need an example? He brought F1 to Bahrain, Azerbaijan, even negotiated with North Korea at one point. If you had cash and a regime to whitewash, Bernie was your guy. He wasn't shy about it either. In one infamous interview, he praised Hitler's ability to get things done. Not exactly the PR line you want from your sports boss. Then came the bribery scandals. In 2014, Ecclestone paid $100 million to settle a court case in Germany, accused of bribing a banker to secure TV rights. The man literally bought his way out of a corruption trial. Bernie's reign made F1 rich but also morally bankrupt. The sport went wherever the money was, no matter how bloody the hands holding it. Speaking of dictators, let's talk Bahrain 2011. While the country faced violent protests and human rights crackdowns, F1 decided the show must go on. The race was initially cancelled after images of police brutality spread worldwide, but by the end of the year, the Bahrain Grand Prix returned. Drivers were told to focus on racing, while outside the circuit, protesters clashed with security forces. Teams tiptoed around the subject. Broadcasters barely mentioned it. The message was clear: image mattered more than lives. Bahrain became a symbol of sports washing, using glamorous events to distract from ugly realities. Even today, Bahrain remains a controversial race. F1 insists it brings progress. Critics argue it legitimizes repression. The dark side here isn't just the race, it's the silence. Jules Bianchi was one of the brightest talents in F1, a Ferrari Jr. tipped for greatness. But in Japan 2014, his life ended because of negligence. Heavy rain, slick track. Adrian Sutil crashes. Marshals send a tractor onto the circuit to recover his car. No safety car deployed. The next lap, Bianchi aquaplanes off at the same corner and collides with the tractor. A Formula One car hit construction machinery at racing speed. Bianchi suffered severe head injuries and passed away the following year. The FIA insisted it was a freak accident, but drivers had warned about conditions. The decision not to deploy the safety car was reckless. The tragedy forced F1 to adopt the virtual safety car system and rethink trackside recovery, but it came too late for Bianchi. His death wasn't bad luck, it was preventable. Formula One isn't just cars and drivers, it's corporations, shell companies, and more tax havens than a billionaire's address book. Teams change ownership through shady deals. Rich businessmen use F1 for PR, for influence, or to park dirty money. Look at Force India, bought by Vijay Mallya, who later fled India on fraud charges, or Haas, whose Russian sponsor Uralkali was tied to oligarch Dmitry Mazepin, sanctioned after the Ukraine invasion. The sport thrives on cash, and it rarely asks where it comes from. Sponsors vanish overnight, teams fold, and fans are left wondering if their favorite team was just a front for someone's offshore account. In a way, the dark side isn't about one scandal, it's baked into the DNA of the sport. Let's talk about voices. Drivers are global stars, but often they're muzzled. Contracts forbid them from criticizing teams, sponsors, or F1 itself. When Lewis Hamilton spoke out about diversity, the FIA tried to clamp down on political statements. When Sebastian Vettel raised climate concerns, he was told to stick to driving. Even off-track scandals get buried. Drivers have walked away from toxic teams under strict NDAs, unable to reveal the full story. The smiles in interviews? Often just legal obligations in a fireproof suit. The dark side here is subtle but powerful. The control of voices. F1 thrives on drama, but only the drama it approves.